Welcome to MUN101, a series conceived to help new delegates be familiarized and introduced to the purpose and procedures of Model United Nations conferences. The Model United Nations Conference is a replica of the actual UN conference held annually in New York. To this end, to carry out a successful Model UN conference, we must understand, firstly, the background of what the role and function and powers of the United Nations are by introducing you to the UN. Secondly, you should understand how the UN is organized and structured. And finally, it will be good to understand the goals and purposes of the Model UN Conference and how this relates back to your daily life as a student. So first, let's introduce you to the United Nations organization itself. Some quick questions. Do you know when the UN was founded? Do you know who are its first founding members? Do you know where the UN meets annually? These are some questions we will be exploring in our course today. Firstly, let's understand that the United Nations was not the first global organization set up to promote peace and security. In fact, the first such organization was known as the League of Nations. The League of Nations in the 1920s and 1930s was successful in resolving several small disputes and territorial conflicts between its member states. However, it did not have enough power to contain and control the more powerful states. As a result, there was an outbreak of a great incident called World War II, which really featured a great power struggle between, on one side, the forces of the United States, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and their allies. On the other end, the Axis powers of Germany, Japan, and Italy. Now, what the side of the United States, Russia, and the United Kingdom was known as the Allied powers, and in 1944, they formed the United Nations. They agreed to form the United Nations in opposition to the Axis powers. By the end of the war, in 1945, this new organization was inaugurated in New York and conceived of as a global body to promote peace and security. It would of course eventually include the defeated powers of Germany, Japan, and Italy. Now, the founding document of the United Nations is known as the Charter, similar to the constitution of different nation states in today's world. Firstly, it stresses the importance of international peace and security. Unsurprisingly, this is because of its origins in World War II. It sought to ensure that such a global conflagration would never happen again. Secondly, in Article 5, it also stresses the importance of nation-state sovereignty. This means that every country has the right within its own borders to decide its own national policies. No other country can tell this country what to do. By recognizing this principle of nation-state sovereignty, it allows member states to achieve common consensus and goals on international policies, but not enforce them on other countries. Therefore, today, the UN has 193 members among its ranks. Note also that the Charter of the UN also proposes the creation of a third body called the Security Council, which is the involvement of the 5 most powerful states at the time of the founding of the UN, alongside 10 rotating non-permanent members. And the Security Council has greater powers than other member states in the United Nations organization itself. We have mentioned about how the UN Charter is concerned with international peace and security, and this is one of the purposes of the UN itself. More than that, however, the UN is also concerned with maintaining friendly relations between its member states. The point of these friendly relations is to promote stability and trade in the world. Furthermore, it aims to achieve international cooperation. And this can be done through its multiple multilateral forums within its subsidiary bodies, which we will explore later. Finally, it seeks to harmonize the action of nations. The United Nations has 6 main subsidiary organs, of which we've noticed the Security Council in the Charter, alongside 5 other organs: the General Assembly, Economic and Social Council, also known as ECOSOC, the International Court of Justice, which is the ICJ, the Trusteeship Council, and the Secretariat. So what do these organs do? The Security Council is the primary organ in charge of peace and security of the entire world. This is a huge burden to bear. It has 15 members, of which 5 are known as the permanent members, or the permanent 5. In UN lingo, we call them the P5. There are 10 who are non-permanent members. The 5 permanent members are United States of America, the United Kingdom, France, China, and Russia. You will notice that these 5 permanent members correspond to the victors of World War II for 2 practical reasons. Firstly, the fact that they set up the UN and therefore had a greater say at the start of the UN. And secondly, because their relative power in the world has remained intact after so long. Now, there are some powers which have declined, such as Great Britain and France, but as a group, the P5 are undoubtedly the most powerful group in international relations today, and therefore they can enforce the mandate of the Security Council. The 10 non-permanent members are selected from different geographies on a rotating basis and voted in by the General Assembly. So what is this General Assembly? The General Assembly is the collection of 193 member states of the UN. And within the General Assembly, there are 6 further committees concerned with different matters. The first matter or committee is the Disarmament Committee. The second is the Economic and Financial Committee. The third, the Social, Cultural, Humanitarian Committee, so on and so forth. The General Assembly is the day-to-day procedure of the UN concerning itself with the other 3 purposes we looked at previously on harmonizing the action between nations, achieving a common goal beneficial to all. Economic and Social Council is concerned particularly and only with economic and social affairs, and the ICJ has been set up by the UN to arbitrate disputes between any 2 member nations. Now, the ICJ works in a certain manner. It only arbitrates disputes when 2 member countries agree and consent to obey its arbitration. They must bring the case before its 15-judge panel, which will then decide on the merits of the case and award the outcome of the case to either member. The Trusteeship Council was conceived during the time of decolonization, when the UN had taken on the mandates of the previous colonial powers. As such, it was most active in the 1940s and 50s, but is no longer active as the mandates have expired and these countries have become independent. Finally, the Secretariat is a given in any conference you go to, because these Secretariat are your chairs and vice chairs who you will meet, who will moderate the discussion for different delegates within the Council. In any modern UN setting, you will notice that the Security Council, the General Assembly, and the Economic and Social Council tend to be the main features where delegates come to debate and discuss the issues of the day. There may also be an International Court of Justice within that system, and finally, there may be a press corps which can participate as a member of press to report on daily happenings within the United Nations Conference. As student delegates, you represent different countries, debate on an international forum, wearing suits, voting in the name of a country on various issues. Let me give you 4 quick reasons on why MUN will benefit you. The first reason, exposure. Being an experienced MUNer means that you get to engage on questions of global import in these conferences, making you more familiar with current events, making you more of a global citizen. For instance, the question of refugees in Palestine, the question of the conflict in Ukraine, the question of the Senkaku Islands between Japan and China. These issues are everyday pervasive issues that dictate the flow of international power, and it's something that any good student of international relations or any observer in the world should be cognizant of. Secondly, being an experienced MUNer endows you with great knowledge. In the course of research for different issues you will be allocated to in your committees, you will have to learn firstly about your country, secondly about the question that you're investigating, and throughout the debate in the conference itself, you will be exposed to a variety of viewpoints and learning outcomes. The third and fourth reasons are reasoning and oratory. Because when you go into a Modern United Nations conference, you will need to make speeches to convince your fellow delegates to support your position and to support your paper when it comes to being debated. To do this effectively, you need to use logic to persuade other delegates that your stand is correct and the most appropriate for the issues being faced. You need to employ persuasive skill. Therefore, Modern United Nations trains you in both reasoning and oratory, which will be important skills for you in any situation in the future. Hi, I'm Yongzhi, Chair of the Arab League at MUN101 AP Modern United Nations, and hope to see you there.